Now, more stories, insights, and analysis of Illinois policy and politics. This is Illinois Rising, presented by the Illinois Policy Institute. Once again, your host, AM 560's Dan Proft.
Welcome back to Illinois Rising. I'm Pat Hughes of the Illinois Opportunity Project, and joining me today on the show is Michael Lucci, who's the Vice President of Policy at the Illinois Policy Institute. The great Dan Proft, who I'm on the show with quite a bit, is on a well-deserved vacation this week, and he's missing out this week, Mike, because Ted Cruz is starting to change what was pre-established narrative of the race on the GOP. This past Tuesday, he had a decisive victory in Wisconsin, and my theory is if John Kasich was out of the race, which he should be out of the race. I don't know what he's doing. Well, I know what he's doing. He's aggrandizing himself, but the win would have been even more overwhelming, and Cruz's path to create more delegates and attain more delegates would be an even higher path than it seems to be now. How do you view Wisconsin in the trajectory of this race and how it seems to have changed very quickly?
Well, Wisconsin's an interesting state because they've gone through significant reforms, conservative-type reforms, and the governor there, Scott Walker, has really worked to change the state. So Wisconsin was very stagnant for a long time. Walker came in, changed a lot of policies, changed public sector union labor agreements, made the state right to work, has been cutting taxes. So of any state where conservatives would be tuned in to what ideas are really working, Wisconsin's probably a state where they're really being informed about what's going on and what's working. And so you see they went very strongly for Ted Cruz, who I would probably consider a guy who has more ideas, more real fundamental ideas to approach our nation's problems than Mr. Trump, who is more of a speaker but doesn't have a lot of ideas behind it. So it could be an interesting turning point where Wisconsin, which is in many ways a very educated voter population on conservative policies, might be turning the election to go in a different direction.
Yeah, and Governor Walker, who I'm an admirer of, he and I actually went to college together many years ago. I didn't know him, but I had a friend of mine who knows him well and says he's a terrific guy. He came out publicly. He was a presidential candidate at first, and one that I thought would have had a real chance. His campaign fizzled quickly, and he went, cut bait and went back to Wisconsin to do his work. He came out very heavily for Ted Cruz, particularly in the last 10 days or so. What does this say about sort of Governor Walker's sway over voters? I mean, he's obviously won several elections, including the recall elections. What does it say about Governor Walker and sort of, what his position is in Wisconsin and maybe what he can be going forward?
Well, as you mentioned, Walker's won more elections than he served terms of governor there because they did attempt to do a recall, but he's won convincingly in a lot of elections, and his approval rate, especially among conservatives in Wisconsin, is very high. And part of that is because he's really stood up and said, we're going to change how we do business in this state. We're going to change policies in this state, and we're going to try to encourage job growth. So it was an interesting phenomenon where Trump sort of attacked Walker for a while. Walker, who had done a lot of positive things for Wisconsin, then Trump sort of went after him. And the question is, what's Trump's idea? Not to reform the state of Wisconsin, not to continue the path that it's going on, which is leaving states like Illinois in the dust. So it's an interesting phenomenon there where Trump went after him, and maybe you're going to see folks who really care about policy beginning to reject Trump, especially as this field winnows down.
Yeah, I mean, momentum is a very interesting thing. I've always thought that Trump had a ceiling at about 40% across the board, and that the only thing that was keeping Cruz or Rubio or Kasich or any other alternative to him down was the fact that there was multiple people splitting the otherwise more establishment vote in the party. And now that it's winnowed down to three candidates, and I think people are starting to say Kasich obviously doesn't have a chance at the delegates. His only chance would be to win on a multiple ballot at the convention, which is totally unlikely. I can't imagine a circumstance like that. I think people are starting to take another look at this. And it shows that Trump's, in my view, has sort of a ceiling on his Republican Party support, but also that support ultimately was relatively thin. And, he's hurt himself this week, in the last week or 10 days, with commentary he made. He made some comments about abortion that didn't make anybody on the pro-life or pro-choice side happy. He's made some comments about Ted Cruz's wife. And, he's sort of exposing himself as this idea that he could say and do anything he wanted and it wouldn't matter. I never thought that was true ultimately. And it clearly seems to be coming apart a little bit, at least. How do you see this going forward for him? Can he rebound? Because there is no way, in my view, that if he doesn't have 1237 at the convention, that they're going to nominate Donald Trump for president.
Well, he has his home state coming up, so that's his big opportunity to get the momentum back in his court. If he doesn't win convincingly there, he's probably in a lot of trouble. As an earlier guest mentioned, California is on the horizon also, and it's very difficult to win all of California because it's split up by congressional district, and a lot of those districts will not go for Mr. Trump. So I think that if he wants to continue on his path to a nomination, he's going to have to do really well in New York and not allow Cruz and Kasich to eat away at his base there in New York. Yeah,
sitting here today, I think that Cruz is going to be the nominee in a second ballot or multiple ballot at the convention. That's just my view. Now, really quickly, we got about 50 seconds left. Nobody wants to talk about the fact that Bernie Sanders has won 7 of the last 8 elections. Everyone wants to talk about how the GOP side is all in disarray. Sanders keeps winning. He won big in Wisconsin. Hillary's momentum is being tamped down. Can Bernie win the nomination? And if he can't, what does having Hillary being nominated mean, given that she's having a very difficult time, which was with a heretofore well-known candidate? You got about 20 seconds.
Well, it's going to be tough for him to win the nomination, but the statement that his campaign's making, which is based on a lot of bad ideas, is really exposing the fact that there's not a lot of support for Hillary Clinton, especially or even on that side of the aisle. People are disenchanted with a candidate who really doesn't speak to the people and is a longtime power broker.